Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on English language amongst global languages. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would be able to understand the status of English language amongst the other languages of the world. Well, my dear students, when we think of the social and the political perspectives of the spread of English, a very important question that emerges is, does the American Empire agenda require the dominance of English globally? By the way, on the screen, the word requires is a typo that shows an S. So, in the second half of the 20th century, French and German declined. And, this gradual decline of German and French languages, of course, then added an impetus to the speed of the spread of English language. And, how on the basis of political ideologies, it is spread across the globe. Commenting on that, or in that context, what I would say is, when Romani Prodi, president of the EU, that is the European Union Commission, was asked in May 2004 about a unified Europe in which English is the universal language, he replied, "It will be broken English, but it will be English," which means varieties of English would be used, but it would be English. So, this provides us insights into how, a kind of a political hegemony is being created for the spread of English. So, it is in the economic and political interest of the United States, according to different linguists and sociolinguists, that they ensure that if the world is moving towards a common language, that should be the language that is called English. My dear students, generally it is said and it is believed, language is power. So if language is power, it means the choice of a particular language invariably then would bring in the issues of being powerful or being powerless, of being better than the other or being worse than the other, of being stronger than the other or being, weak than the other. And, the positioning and the status of English in today's world, how it is perceived politically and ideologically, actually deals with this same idea of power. The question arises, why should the British and French or EU states so energetically promote their languages internationally? Because it is more an issue of ideology of their local identities as well. When it comes to English language and the linguistic hegemony of English, it means that the choice of language is not merely a matter of the individual language user. Since we are constrained by larger, structural and ideological factors. So, switching to English, for example, or opting for English not only means opting this language as an individual, it means opting for being a part of this whole web of, interconnectivities of power and of ideologies. When we look at the countries in the world globally, actually what we can notice is that there is a paradigm shift from a concern in several countries when it comes towards the invasion of loan words. As you would have noticed that, for example, in how many of you, I wonder, would know the word Fehrist? And how many of you practically use it in your everyday conversations? Generally, we use the word list, So, these kind of loan words that are taken from English language, this is not peculiar to our context only. It has happened everywhere across the globe, generally speaking. And today, sociolinguists and linguists, they are, showing concerns about this, that this heavy borrowing from English language into other words, into other, languages, what can be its implications? So concerns are being raised. There are studies of the Englishization of academia in several countries, according to Philipson and Shutnab Kangas. What do they say is that academia in many countries has been Englishized. I would also like you to think of this concept of Englishization of academia in our context as well, where, the English stream of education has emerged as a separate stream that is, used in the private schooling, and how the factors of prestige are attached to English language, and how, higher education in Pakistan is also, delivered in English language. Well, my dear students, there is a paradox actually in this context in different societies. For example, the study of Nordic medical doctors who were given a task to read an article either in English or in a translation into any of the mother tongues of these doctors, such as Danish, Swedish, or Norwegian. This study revealed that when doctors studied the article in English language, they understood less, and they were able to retain less in their memory as compared to those who read it, in their mother tongue. So, this is a paradox in the current situation. Then if this is the case, then should English be promoted like that in academia, for example, or not? Well, my dear students, there is a general perception of English being adopted as the dominant corporate language all across the world, all across Europe as well. It has its own challenges when it comes to the functionality of businesses and of governments, etc. The issues of official language in Pakistan, for example, can be thought about. Going back to the examples of Nordic countries, surveys in all the Nordic countries of the increasing use of English in scholarship and technology, in the higher education, the business world, and media suggest that there are strong risks of domain loss in local languages. Local languages are losing certain domains, which means, for example, in the domains of administration, of government, of business, and of media, etc., generally, the local languages are not being used anymore. I would give you the examples of Norway and Finland that are also inviting substantially, they are investing in, substantially in the multilingual context, and being, challenged by these ideas of, how English is usurping all these domains. They are trying to promote multilingualism. So, for example, Denmark is expecting its higher education institutions to use both English and Danish languages in their higher education. So, this is a reaction towards, this process of, creating a hegemony of English. In a reaction to that, different nations are trying to promote multilingualism. As for the understanding of these concepts, I would like you to think of the case of South Asia in the South Asian context, in the context of multilinguality and bilingualism, where we use different languages. Still, in the hierarchy, the placement of English at the top, and it being the language of academia and of government and for official purposes, it raises certain concerns. I would like you to think about that. I would also like you to think particularly about Pakistan in this regard.